And welcome back to another Skyrim analysis. My name is Alec, and today we're gonna take a closer look at 5 ordinary NPCs with an unusual, bizarre, or even dark secret. As we all know, Skyrim is filled with mysteries and morally grey characters. No surprise there. And while in previous episodes we discussed the problem of banditry and concluded that many have turned to a life of crime out of simple necessity, today we're gonna examine characters that appear as regular citizens, neutral or even friendly towards the player, but deep down beneath the facade hide some more or less terrible or simply strange secret. Now, because there are so many, I chose not only first 5 that came to my mind, but also characters that in some way helped define that recognizable Skyrim experience for me. After all these years, when I think of Skyrim, it's these random encounters and simple slice of life stories that first come to mind. They provided the game with that unique flavor, besides all the scenery and exploration, of course. So as I go through each entry, I'll also include a reason for selecting that particular character. So let's begin.
Well, aren't you sweet? I'm just a poor old woman, dear. No need to trouble yourself with me.
Everyone knows Anise, an elderly Nord alchemist living where else but alone in a small, rundown shack in the middle of forest, just southwest of Riverwood. Anise is responsible for what's probably my very first Skyrim scare. Not my finest gaming moment, but it is what it is. We all have some deep-rooted, irrational fear of something. And for me, it was Anise.
All right then.
Or maybe it's the archetype of a hag lurking in the woods that I recall from old fairy tales. I'll never forget my very first playthrough. I arrived at Riverwood as expected, and decided to wander off into the nearby forest. Because who cares about the main quest, right? I just wanted to explore the land and see what's out there. So I found myself lost in the boreal wilderness of Skyrim, surrounded by the desolate beauty of the landscape, and then it got dark. As I tried to navigate my way back to the village, I stumbled upon a rough-looking cabin, only to be greeted by a mysterious, skinny, hooded figure, speaking in elderly kind voice.
Well, aren't you sweet?
That at the same time felt like a lure, inviting me inside the haunted cabin. It wasn't a scare in that traditional sense of a jump scare, just a deep, unsettling feeling in my stomach, forcing me to turn around and run as fast as I can. And even after all these years, I still get this slightly uneasy feeling whenever I approach her cabin. It could be just an old memory bouncing back, but maybe there's more to it. First of all, let's briefly talk about the cabin itself. It's in a bad shape, providing very little if any protection from the elements. Roof is practically non-existent, and bed placed right next to an open large window. Can you imagine spending a night here in the middle of Skyrim's wilderness? Surrounded with all sorts of predators, you'd basically offer yourself on a plate. So I think that cabin's uncommon, deteriorated condition plays a significant role in the overall weirdness of the situation. Cabin's purpose is to provide shelter from the elements and the wildlife, and here it's obviously not such a case. Quite the opposite, but that's not the only inversion of expectations. Anise herself never sleeps, which is quite odd, as Skyrim's citizens follow regular sleep cycle, but not Anise, making her seem, well, supernatural. She spends day and night in front of the cabin, sitting or occasionally working in a small garden, as if waiting for someone. Something is definitely off about Anise, and if we sneak into the hidden basement, we will soon discover her secret. Anise is a witch. Besides all the human skulls, hag-raven feathers, and poison, there's also a letter, simply called Anise's Letter. So let's read it. Helgi, dear, why do you hesitate? You can feel the power coursing in your blood. You have only to reach out and grasp it. Renounce that boy of yours and come. Come live with me in the forest. My sister will be here soon. Together we can form a proper coven, and your training will truly begin. With her secret revealed, Anise will turn hostile and attack the player on sight.
Fool. None may know my secret.
Now you die!
You need to learn some manners.
But our story doesn't end here. Anise could just be another generic witch in hiding, but Bethesda decided to go a tiny step further, adding a fine layer of mystery around her. Nothing big, but just enough to spark curiosity. Because everything about Anise is different. All of her dialogue is unique, she never sleeps, and there's this mysterious letter talking about her plans and two other individuals. The identity of her sister and Helgi is never directly revealed, prompting numerous fan theories over the years. You see, only Helgi that can be found in the game is a ghost of a child immortal, and it's highly unlikely that Anise referred to her, as Helgi from a letter is almost certainly an adult. But still, it's a really strange coincidence, as in-game Helgi is connected to a very disturbing side quest involving vampires, and it's also set in mortal town ripe with dark magic and magic users. Another fun, but in my opinion rather weak theory, is that letter in fact has a typo, and it's not referred to Helgi, but Hilde. Hilde being of course a grumpy old lady from Riverwood and Swan's mother. My issue with it is that Hilde is quite old for someone who was supposed to only start training magic arts. My impression is that Helgi from the letter is a younger adult and not an elderly person. At the same time, I do want to say that game kinda hints at Hilde as being somewhat odd. In the beginning, as we arrive Riverwood, Hilde is the only one seeing Alduin flying away from Helgen. In her own words,
I saw a dragon!
What? What is it now, Mother?
It was as big as the mountain and black as night. It flew right over the barrow.
it was big as the mountain, yet no one else could see it. And it's Sven's reply that caught my attention.
Dragons now, is it? Please, Mother. If you keep on like this, everyone in town will think you're crazy. And I've got better things to do than listen to more of your fantasies.
More of your fantasies. So, is Hilde really just a crazy old woman, or is there more to her fantasies? Is she a natural-born seer invited by Anise to abandon Sven and form a coven? Again, I don't believe that's the case, but it was worth mentioning. So, if it's not the ghost of a child from Mortal, or an old woman from Riverwood, then who is this Helgi? Well, this may come out as a disappointment, but in my opinion, it's simply an out-of-game character, someone who was referenced but never actually shown. The identity of her sister, on the other hand, is perhaps more interesting, and it's possibly revealed quite subtly through a fun little encounter with hired thugs. As we all know, in Skyrim, stealing an item may trigger an encounter with hired thugs. So, if we steal an item from Anise's shack, we may encounter thugs sent by none other but Moira the Hag Raven. Yes, that Moira. One that has a chance of marrying Dragonborn during a certain Daedric quest. And as always, I wonder if Bethesda ever planned doing something more with Anise and her little coven. Although sometimes leaving these small fragments of stories, events and situations that are caught in the everlasting present moment throughout the world is the best way of creating a reality that feels dynamic and alive. Anise is caught in one such perpetual motion, forever waiting for her mysterious sister.
Watch your step. It's a long way down.
Wilhelm is a strange character set in a strange town. In fact, Wilhelm is the main inspiration behind this video. See, in the previous episode of Skyrim's Strange Bandits, I briefly mentioned him while examining the tragic character of Wendelius Gatarian, a treasure hunter trapped in a Nordic barrow right here in Iverstad, commenting that there is something off about Wilhelm, but I never took it further as he wasn't the main topic. If Anise is shrouded with a veil of enigma, Wilhelm is then like a mystery onion, consisting of many layers of secrecy and intrigue. It's not even clear if he's truly a monster in disguise, or a genuine good guy, and that's what makes him so interesting to analyze. As we go through all of his dialogues and related quests, it will become clear that Bethesda attempted to write a somewhat different, more complex, and dare I say, realistic character. I regard Wilhelm as one of Skyrim's best written NPCs for this exact reason. You see, on the surface, Wilhelm appears as a concerned, kind-hearted citizen, very much involved in town's daily life. He can be regularly seen talking to locals, often advising them on different matters. For instance, he encourages a bard, Linley Starsong, to keep on performing despite her poor morale.
I think you should continue with your performances.
What's the point? I'm not very good, and it's only for the same few people every night.
I think you play beautifully. It would be a shame if you stopped.
All right, Wilhelm. I suppose it's the least I can do for you.
He talks to Bassianus about his crush, Festred.
Have you spoken to Fastred yet?
No, I'll tell you, Wilhelm. If I could sweep her away from here tomorrow, I'd do it. But Klimek still has so much to learn.
Klimek is doing just fine. You should follow your heart.
He tells Gwilym to stand up for himself.
I heard Temba yelling at you yesterday. Why do you let her treat you like that?
We can even overhear Wilhelm's name in a conversation between Joftor and Fastred.
What is it now?
Wilhelm said he saw you speaking to one of the pilgrims on the 7,000 steps.
Besides this, Wilhelm is also involved in quite a few quests, more than your average Skyrim innkeeper, including a rather bizarre mystery. So in order to properly unmask Wilhelm and see what truly lurks beneath that smirk, we'll have to carefully examine all of his interactions. But let's just for a brief moment talk about Iverstead. Earlier I said that Iverstead is a strange town, and I know I can already hear some of you wondering, how's that? Isn't Iverstead one of the most boring towns with nothing to do? I guess it depends on the angle. If Iverstead is a one-time stop on your way to High Hrothgar, sure, it may seem like a boring, sleepy town with very little to offer. And I believe that it was meant to seem that way. But if you stop, take a deep breath and peek behind the curtain, Iverstead becomes quite interesting to say the least. Iverstead sits at the base of the throat of the world, Tamriel's tallest mountain. But unlike, say, Riverwood, Iverstead to me feels like in a constant danger of being swallowed by the colossal mountain. Darkwater River has this weird glitch right here by Iverstead, causing the river to flow in two directions, as if some unnatural force bends the laws of physics. A menacing ancient barrow is located basically within the town, leading into a decent-sized underground ruin, and a little bit further east, on a small island, is an infamous Geirmund's Hall. And as if that's not enough, Iverstead is surrounded by not one, but two caves inhabited by extremely ferocious bears. All things considered, Iverstead almost seems cursed, and knowing that it has a long history of decline, with residents constantly moving out in search for a better life, somewhere, anywhere but here, only supports that notion. There's a secret darkness surrounding Iverstead, and Wilhelm, the innkeeper of Villemere Inn, is a part of it simply because, as we already said, he loves meddling in everyone's affairs. So let's take a look at all of his interactions, including investigating a haunted barrow, finding a missing person, smuggling black briar mead, and protecting a runaway fiancée with a fake identity. Yeah, this guy is all over the place. First time I felt something off about Wilhelm was after finishing the quest of the supposed haunted barrow. Since I covered this quest and the character of Wendelius in a previous video, obviously I won't go over it again. But here's a brief summary. About a year ago, a Dunmer treasure hunter Wendelius arrived to Iverstead looking for, well, treasure, hidden within the burial chamber of a local barrow. He talks to Wilhelm about it prior to going in, and this was the last time that he was seen by anybody. As we find out later, Vindelius spent entire year inside the barrow looking for the sapphire dragonclaw while pretending to be a ghost in order to keep the superstitious locals away. It sounds like a plot of a classic Scooby-Doo episode, and it's awesome. What's not awesome is that Vindelius gradually descended into madness, and by the time we arrive, he is completely lost, now believing to be an undead guardian of the barrow. It's a tragic story and one of my favorite side quests. Entire plot is also quite enigmatic and open to various interpretations, which is why, again, I covered it in detail. But for today's video, I'd like to point out that this same sapphire dragonclaw that Vindelius searched for an entire year and went mad because of it, was all this time in possession of none other but Wilhelm himself.
Can't believe this. It was all just a fabrication of this Vindelius character. I can't believe we were so stupid. Well, least I can do is give you something for taking care of him. If you won't accept it as a payment, consider it a gift.
And we know that because upon completing the questline, he will in fact give it to us as a reward. You see, it made me wonder if Wilhelm perhaps knew all along that Vindelius specifically searched for the claw, which would make him then quite sadistic, and the whole quest would end with such a dark twist. But to be fair, we can't be sure. We only know that Wilhelm and Vindelius exchange few words about the barrow, with Wilhelm apparently warning him not to go in, same as he warned us. So Wilhelm knew that Vindelius is after some treasure, but nothing more than that. And to Wilhelm's defense, present-day Nords are for the most part ignorant of their ancient past. We even don't know how Wilhelm got the sapphire dragonclaw. Could be a simple purchase. Just how Birna from Winterhold got in possession of a coral dragonclaw, thinking it's just a useless junk.
Yeah, it was stupid of me. I shouldn't have believed the story and just refused the trade. But I didn't, and now I'm stuck with this worthless junk.
And we also don't know how Lucan Valerius got in possession of a golden dragonclaw. Point is, these claws seem to circulate throughout Skyrim, often mistaken for a piece of unique ornament. And as a side note, there's an interesting parallel between Riverwood and Iverstead. Both cases have a Dunmer in possession of or searching for a dragonclaw in order to reach a greater treasure and power within the ruin. Arvel the Swift knows more than your average Nord, and Vindelius himself writes that claw is only a mean of accessing main burial chamber. So it's interesting that in both cases we have Dunmer more knowledgeable about the ancient Nordic burials than Nord themselves. But going back to Wilhelm, what I think is rather bizarre is that he rewards us with the artifact responsible for the entire tragedy, sitting literally in front of the barrow. Is it a coincidence or Wilhelm's sick sense of humor? Yet this is only the beginning, as obviously there is more to our friendly innkeeper. Iverstead, just so happens, is also a home to one of Skyrim's most bizarre mysteries, and it's only logical that Wilhelm again stands at the center of it. It's a case of Narfi, a mentally unstable beggar living in a ruined house. Wilhelm seems to be the only character in town that even cares, as he's the only one to have a dialogue about Narfi.
He's harmless. He's been in a state ever since his sister Rada disappeared over a year ago. He just keeps to himself in what's left of his folks' farmhouse across the river.
Now, I won't dwell too much on the secret of his missing sister Rada, but to portray Wilhelm's involvement, I'll have to provide a summary. It's a really interesting mystery plot, in fact one that kinda pulls you deeper into the rabbit hole as you try to solve it. And spoilers alert, I don't think that there is a definite answer.
I can't see you, Rada. I can't find you. Why are you hiding? Hide. Don't make me sad. Watch the mountain. The mountain will eat you. Oh, Rada. You live among the clouds now, dear Rada.
We are to assume that at one point Narfi and his family, sister Rada and unnamed parents, lived a perfectly normal life. But then something happened. Something that changed the entire family's life. forever, triggering a series of tragedies. First, parents were gone, and although we are never told what exactly happened, it's safe to assume that they died, possibly in some accident. Sometime after that, Rada disappeared, presumably while gathering ingredients from a nearby island. According to Wilhelm, this is the moment that broke Narfi.
Rada was here, then gone. Went to gather plants and never came home. Nope. Everyone looked and no one could find her. Wilhelm said she'll be back. Told Narfi not to worry. Rada will come back.
I just said that to make the poor guy feel better. I'm pretty sure she's dead. Rada would gather ingredients from the small island in the river east of here. Then one day, she just vanished. I tried to look for her, but she never turned up.
So was Narfi perfectly sane prior to that? It's possible, but we don't know. We don't even know what happened to the house. Was it ruined by Narfi after Rada's disappearance? Did it burn down? An earthquake? Avalanche? Accident caused by the Greybeards? What makes Wilhelm suspicious to me is that he seems overly involved, if that makes sense. First of all, how does he even know that Rada gathered ingredients on an island east of the town? Did she tell him that for some reason, or was he following her? And also, Wilhelm went out looking for Rada as soon as she disappeared, on his own. Could that just be an alibi for going out to, murder her? In any case, the island is quite dangerous. It's the location of Geirmund's Hall and hordes of the undead within. There are also cave bears running around, and further down the lake are even some treasure hunters. Definitely not a place you'd go to pick some flowers. Also, as it turns out, Rada's remains are not on the island at all, but at the bottom of the river, next to a bridge, meaning it's right here by the town. And to make things even more suspicious, 2 iron arrows are found by the body, meaning that she was definitely murdered and then thrown into water. It's actually very easy to miss those 2 arrows. Due to game's physics and strong river currents, they will drift away as soon as they spawn. But I'd like you to remember those 2 iron arrows, as they're gonna show up again and possibly be relevant. Rada's necklace, found by her body, will be a proof of her death. We can show it to Narfi and tell him the truth, or take pity on him and lie. Regardless of our choice, Narfi will reward us with few alchemical ingredients. But adding to the mystery, these will be rare items, often including a human or Daedric heart, or even human flesh. Now, even though these items are generally randomized, I don't think that they are completely random. I believe that Narfi was meant to have one of these uncommon ingredients, signifying his madness. But how did those items came to his possession? Like I said, the mystery tends to go very deep. And there's also a fact that Narfi was named after a Norse mythological figure, Loki's son, who turned into a wolf and tore his brother apart. In a very graphic way. Is this supposed to imply that Narfi is a werewolf? Did he in fact murder both the parents and Rada while in the beast form, causing him to dissociate and go mad? Quite unlikely, but worth mentioning. And also, I'd like to point out another rather weird glitch. If we take Rada's necklace to Wilhelm first, this will be his response.
Rada? You saw Rada? Did you tell her Narfi cries? Did you tell her Narfi never said goodbye like mother and father?
Rada! You saw Rada? Did you tell her Narfi cries? Did you tell her Narfi never said goodbye like mother and father?
This is in fact Narfi's line, but what makes it strange is that it was done in Wilhelm's voice, recorded by his voice actor. Even if it's a mistake, it's a rather interesting one, adding more mystery to this entire storyline. It's as if Wilhelm himself, for a brief moment, became possessed by some evil spirit.
That's your best? I think you should continue with your performances.
And the final mystery surrounding Narfi deals with his violent end. In a rather bizarre twist, Narfi becomes Dark Brotherhood's target, which means that someone somewhere went through the whole ritual of Black Sacrament, only to get rid of a homeless beggar. For what purpose? Again, it's a mystery. Wilhelm is widely considered one of the main suspects in Rada's murder. Maybe he fancied Rada and got rejected, or simply enjoys the thrill of a good hunt. He's actively involved in the storyline, sends the player to a wrong location, and is even suspected of involving Dark Brotherhood to get rid of Narfi. If he's innocent, it could be viewed as an act of mercy, simply deciding to end Narfi's life of never-ending pain. Sounds cruel, but hey, that's Skyrim for you. There are simply too many unanswered questions. Like I said, this entire mystery remains unsolved, and in a way, I prefer it that way. Speaking of Wilhelm's love interests, there are implications that he also has an eye for Linley Starsung. Now, this is yet another mystery left open for interpretation, but what's certain is that Linley is in fact called Sweetie, and she is in hiding from Sibi, a member of a powerful Blackbriar family from Riften.
Look, we all have our flaws. Mine is that women can't get enough of me. So I had this little affair going on while I was betrothed to a beautiful girl named Svidi. Well, she finds out and she tells her brother Wolfer that her brother attacks me with a knife. I had to defend myself. She was a young woman, buxom, with long flowing black hair. She used to sing the most lovely songs to me when we were courting. I've never heard her voice so beautiful. All that talent will go to waste when I'm finished with her.
Sibi and I were to be married. We were supposed to be happy together forever. Then I found that wretched poetry from Svana. When I confronted Sibi about it, he threatened to kill me. I was scared, so I told my brother Wolfur. He went to talk to Sibi for me and Sibi killed him. My brother wasn't even armed. When I heard what Sibi did, I fled. And now you found me, and you're going to tell him where I am.
Okay, so Sweetie changed her name to Linley Starsung and roleplays as a bard in Wilhelmir Inn. There is also a line from Wilhelm claiming that he promised to keep her safe, which almost certainly means that he's aware of her true identity. Well, I always had the impression that Wilhelm had an eye for Linley, especially because of his constant compliments.
I think you played beautifully.
She is supposed to be an attractive female with a beautiful voice, and if we accept his previous involvement with Rada, it could play a role in building his image of a murderous, stalking predator. Again, it's all just a theory, and none of it can be proven. But what can be proven is Wilhelm's connection to smuggling black briar mead and partnership with the Bercy Honeyhand, Riften's trader. In a quest called Under the Table, we can smuggle black briar mead from Riften to Wilhelm.
All right, pipe down! You want the whole blessed place to hear you? The arrangement called for a trade. I hope you'll find this suitable.
And interestingly enough, this is his only confirmed illegal activity. And although it's not a particularly heavy crime like murder, it certainly stains the image of a supposedly honorable, law-abiding citizen. And this is proven further in a small note found in the Pond Prawn shop, sent by Wilhelm to Bercy. Bercy, I got your last request, but there's no way I'm going near Shroud Heart Barrow. I know that the trinkets from the Nordic barrows sell quite well, but it isn't worth getting killed. You probably think I'm crazy, but I'm certain that the place is haunted, and I refuse to become another victim of whatever lives there. Sorry, old friend. Signed, Wilhelm. This note, of course, references Vindelius Gutharion, who used to hunt the barrow for an entire year. In fact, Vindelius's journal has a mention of Wilhelm trying to enter the barrow at one point, only to be chased away by Vindelius posing as a ghost. So, if anything, at least we know for a fact that Wilhelm is capable of smuggling mead and looting barrows for profit. But what caught my attention are these two iron arrows carefully positioned on both sides of the letter. And again, this is the letter sent by Wilhelm. Is this somehow related to two iron arrows found on Rada's remains? And this is what's so fun, yet at the same time frustrating about Wilhelm. There are so many interconnected storylines, subtle references, glitches, connections that may or may not be intentional. If Elder Scrolls Wikipedia is to be trusted, Bercy Honeyhand and Linley Starsong are in fact marked as confidants, even though there's nothing in-game that shows that. But it explains why would Wilhelm take Linley, or Sweetie, under his protection. It's all based on his friendship with Bercy. For the sake of my sanity, I leave it at that. But even with this shortened summary of Wilhelm's character, and all of his interactions with people of Skyrim, it's obvious that he is a man of many secrets and character with certain depth, which is unusual even for this game. Whether a murdering maniac posing as a friendly innkeeper or a genuine good guy trying to survive in this harsh land, Wilhelm is unusual in that so many of his interactions feel interconnected. And it could be again that he is a victim, so to speak, of a cut content. Maybe there was more to his original storyline, who knows?
Ha! And what would a witless oaf like you know about raising children?
Town of Rorikstead is home to one of Skyrim's oldest running conspiracies. The one attempting to unravel the secret, if there's any, behind Rorikstead's remarkable success with the harvest.
Secret? What makes you think there's a secret? There are no secrets here, my curious friend. Our prosperity is simply the result of hard work, good fortune, and the blessings of the gods.
They haven't had a bad harvest in years, while managing to stay out of the chaos of civil war. It's almost as if this small remote community located in the far western side of Whiterun Hold, at the edge of the Golden Tundra, became forgotten by the rest of the world. The heart of the conspiracy is this. There is a secret cult in Rorikstead, most likely dedicated to some Daedra, and led by a Breton healer, Juan, with the goal of creating a wealthy farming community. A noble cause for sure, but since it involves Daedra, it has to turn dark at some point. Well, according to the theory, the title of Skyrim's most fertile soil doesn't come cheap and is achieved through human sacrifice, more specifically by sacrificing females, which would explain a lack of women in Rorikstead. And truly, even for such a small community, it's still rather odd that there is only one woman present, and a high elf on top of that.
I see in your eyes that you think I jest. I assure you I don't. I am proud, and rightfully so, of the work we do here. Working the soil with your hands, seeing your seeds take root and grow, tending a herd. There is a joy in honest labor you won't find elsewhere.
And this is where Lemkil comes into picture.
That would be Lemkil. I just hate to see what's happened to him. He hasn't always been like this, you know. Cold, I mean. There's times I think he's the coldest man in Skyrim.
Lemkil is a hard-working farmer and the father of twin girls, Sissel and Britta, only remaining females in Rorikstead. So if conspiracy is valid, they are said to be sacrificed at some point. Now, Lemkil is also a widower, as his wife died during childbirth. According to the locals, this unfortunate event turned Lemkil into a coldest man in Skyrim. And by poking around further and talking to people, we will actually find out that Lemkil is straight out abusive towards his daughters. He regularly beats them and regards them as useless as weed. What I also found disturbing is that Lemkil doesn't share a single line of dialogue with his daughters, meaning that they spend every night at home in awkward silence.
Most days, I do all I can to stay away from my sister and my father. They pick on me, and they make me do all the chores. The beating's the same from either one.
According to the Rorikstead conspiracy, Lemkil's wife was, in fact, sacrificed. And if we assume that Lemkil knows about it, then he also knows that the same fate awaits his daughters, or at least one of them, explaining his general dissociation from them. Why even bothering with raising daughters if they too will one day be taken away?
Do yourself a favor and don't have children. They're good for nothing at all. I spend every day tending the fields, and what do my daughters do? Nothing. Complain and caterwaul, sleep and eat. Useless.
Instead, Lemkil spends his days working ceaselessly on his farm, while his daughters wander away. Cecil, the younger one, is in fact being secretly trained by Juan in various arts of magic, prompting some to believe that she may be prepared for a different role.
Can we do some fire magic?
Most certainly not. But perhaps I can teach you how to put some candles out. We'll start there.
Ooh, wonderful! I can't wait!
But all the conspiracy theories aside, Lemkil is one bitter man, and regardless of how his wife died, his actions cannot be justified. To be quite honest, as much as I enjoy good Skyrim conspiracy, I don't think there's anything mystical going around here. Town's lack of females could be due to game's small scale. Hard work and a little bit of luck can do wonders in regards to good crops. And maybe Juan is really just an old Breton healer, capable of, let's say, boosting Rorikstad's productivity in some secret way. I mean, not all secrets have to be dark and twisted. Which again leaves us with Lemkil, doomed to repeat same day over and over for the rest of his miserable life. Unless Bethesda tried to tell us something by naming him Lemkil, an anagram for kill me.
I don't need to talk to you. Get lost. Just leave.
There's nothing wrong with a little adventure now and then. What the?
All right, now everyone back away. Let the law handle this. You there. What do you know about this? If you happen to recollect anything about the incident, be sure to report to the captain of the guard.
Anything I can pick up for you on my next trip into the city, Eric?
Thanks for the offer, Juan, but I'm saving up for a new sword.
Welcome to the House of Curiosities.
I gotta be honest, in those early days of playing Skyrim, Wilhelm wasn't among my favorite cities. It felt too labyrinthian, bleak. Although not without its charm, there's a sense of realism in the way it utilizes space. It's imperfect and elemental, an architectural style almost certainly influenced by Wilhelm's Proto-Nordic Atmoran origin, and shaped by the centuries of merciless ice storms.
It's too cold for my bones.
But with its shadowy narrow passages, unbroken snow, seedy taverns, strained flowers decorating haunted graveyards, and a constant sense of danger lurking beyond the shadows, Wilhelm, strangely enough, also feels to me somewhat Victorian. It's a strange association, I know, but I can't really shake it off. And there's one particular quest that kinda helps invoking this image even further. Blood on Ice. It's a quest that brings Jack the Ripper to mind. In short, a serial killer is on loose and is almost ritualistically targeting young, helpless women, leaving them dissected and butchered. Thus, the rumors around the town about the butcher.
Be on the lookout. The butcher could be around any corner.
We will encounter one such unfortunate victim, Susanna the Wicked, in the graveyard, surrounded by a number of characters, including a homeless woman, Silda the Unseen.
I heard a scream and came running, but she was already like this when I got here.
Helgird, the priestess of Archay.
But I did notice that her coin purse was still intact, so whoever did this wasn't after gold.
A guard.
Just like always. Nobody saw anything useful. The bastards escaped again.
And Calixto Corrium.
Always sad when someone has to die.
One of the most fascinating, bizarre, twisted minds in Skyrim, and I mean that wholeheartedly.
Calixto, do you know if there's any truth to these rumors of dragons?
I try not to trouble myself with stories of the outside world. Now, if someone brings me a dragon scale, that's a different story.
But how would you know it's real?
I can't reveal all my secrets to you, but rest assured, I would know.
You see, Calixto is something of a local celebrity, slightly eccentric but trustworthy foreigner, an imperial in the heart of Ulfric's little kingdom of true Nords. Calixto lives a peaceful life, spending most of the days inside of his house, turned into a humble museum, known simply as Calixto's House of Curiosities. But we are not here because of his curious museum, but because this kind face and even kinder voice hides a serial killer, the butcher himself.
If you've got some time, stop by my House of Curiosities. I promise you'll see wonders.
Again, I'll never forget playing through this quest for the first time. It felt different, as it wasn't another fetch this item kind of a job. Instead, it was one of the rare moments in which game forced me to investigate and even make real decisions. Decisions that for once matter, like sending innocent person to jail. But again, as fun as it was, I'm even more intrigued by Calixto and his life story. So let's play along and visit his curious little museum.
Welcome to the House of Curiosities. I offer a brief tour for a few coins, or you can simply browse at your leisure. My sister and I inherited a modest sum of money. We decided to travel and seek out whatever adventures we could find. As we journeyed across Tamriel, we encountered tales of exotic and wondrous artifacts. We decided to collect as many as we could. My sister passed away some years ago, so I settled down here and opened the House of Curiosities. I think she would be happy to know that our collection has brought smiles to faces both young and old.
For only 2 septims, Calixto will give us a short tour in which he'll comment on 4 specific items.
These tools were found in a crypt outside Wilhelm. They belong to the ancient Nords who dwelt in Skyrim before the days of the First Empire. Most scholars believe that the Nords of old used these implements to prepare their dead for burial. What macabre mysteries would these tools reveal if they could but speak? Here is the Book of Fate, discovered in a secret room in the Arcane University. The writing in the book describes the destiny of its reader, so the words change from one person to the next. Some see only blank pages, and nobody knows why. Perhaps some of us are born with no destiny, or maybe the blank pages signify an imminent death. Ah, now here's an item out of legend. This is Ysgramor's soup spoon. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is no spoon, it's a fork. Nobody can eat soup with a fork. Well, my friend, you did not know Ysgramor. Don't let this innocent-looking flute fool you, for this is the dancer's pipe. Legend holds that the dancer's pipe has won wars, toppled empires, and changed the very course of history. None know its origins, but the stories say that men who hear its music are compelled to dance uncontrollably, no matter the peril. To activate this strange power, one must only speak the magic words, which are... Oh my, I very nearly got us both into a nasty predicament, didn't I?
Most of these items are either a joke or perhaps even a reference of some kind. For example, as we're gonna find out later, Calixto actually uses embalming tools for dissecting bodies. As for the Book of Fate, I see it almost as a warning, perhaps a sign that the visitor could be a next victim. Also, a theme of destiny plays a significant role in all Elder Scrolls games, especially in regards to the player's character being chosen and kinda fulfilling its own fate, instead of it being predetermined. Now, Ysgramor's spoon, which is in fact a simple fork, is an interesting one. Here I do sense a presence of Sheogorath. He actually has a cursed item or artifact shaped as a simple iron fork. And that whole thing of eating a soup with a fork alludes obviously to madness. It just sounds like something Sheogorath would say or do. And the mention of Ysgramor could simply be due to location, as we are, after all, in Wilhelm. Last item, Dancer's Flute, is in my opinion most enigmatic, but something about me reminds me of tonal architecture, tomb, and ways of time and space manipulation through sound. or music. But what's most curious is that all of these items appear to be simple regular items, meaning there's nothing special about them. Yet Calixto claims to have traveled all across Tamriel with his sister for years, collecting legendary items. So my question is, if it's true, where are they? Only one item will be truly unique and legendary. And it's not even found in a museum, but in Calixto's secret base of operations, House Hierim, which belonged to one of his victims. Necromancer's Amulet. It's yet another reference, as this item appeared in pretty much every Elder Scrolls game. It was made by Manny Marco. In Morrowind, it was in possession of a crazed archmage of a mage's guild, Trebonius. And now, it somehow ended up in the hands of Calixto Corrium, the butcher of Wilhelm. House Hierim also has a secret room containing a strange altar, large number of bones, and cheese? And then there's also Butcher's Journal, providing a fun yet disturbing insight into Calixto's mind. So let's have a read. The plans are coming together swimmingly. I found a good source of bone, flesh and blood, but thus far a good sampling of sinew and marrow have escaped me. No matter. The city is swollen with contemptuous fools who will be missed by nobody. Last night I was almost able to corner Susanna as she left Candleheart. Idiot guard showed up at just the wrong moment, and I had to turn about, just out for a stroll and so forth. There will be other chances, but the time is drawing near. I think back to my time in Winterhold. All the wasted minds up in their towers. They only explore the magic they already know. I am discovering a new magic here. Something deeper than the cantripped shenanigans of fire and light. This flesh magic is older than us, perhaps older than the world itself. I am tugging at the corners of the fabric of the universe, and where it bunches and folds is where I shall create my greatest triumph. One more attempt at the Candleheart girl. She's proving to be quite cautious, but those strong joints of hers should contain the most exquisite tendons. Worth the effort tonight.
It bothers me that fewer people come to Windhelm these days.
Flash magic is one of the more obscure aspects of arcane arts. This is in fact one of the very few mentions of this school of magic in Skyrim, and it's rather fascinating that a random adventurer like Calixto even knows about it. Again, he writes, and I quote, "I am discovering new magic here," implying that he learned about it by himself. And not only that, but even attempts to master its secrets and resurrect his dead sister. Which brings us to the beginning. Calixto's main motivation behind all the killings, butchering and practicing some ancient, nearly forgotten magic in the middle of Skyrim is to bring his dead sister back to life. This is in fact revealed in a final note hidden in his house. "Soon enough, my sweet Lucilla, you will be with me again." Normally, when such words are written, it is because the love left behind is soon to depart. But in my case, I hope to soon bring your spirit back into my world, for it was you who loved this world so much, not I. I continue to collect your new form from the ragged bits around Wilhelm. If they only knew what destiny would soon grace their bodies, with your spirit imbuing them with a higher purpose, they will surely thank me for the great gift I give them. I reserve for them a place of beauty alongside your heart. The day draws near. Soon I will hold you, and I will show you this, and it will be as delivering a long-forgotten letter to a weary traveler. Love always, Calixto. Now, from here on, the in-game part of the story is rather typical. By working with a steward, priestess, and a court wizard, we can catch Calixto in the act of stalking another victim and hunt him down. He doesn't even pose a challenge, which tells me that, at the end of the day, Calixto was nothing but a madman. My feeling is that Calixto may even be responsible for his sister's death, resulting in him going insane due to a large amount of guilt. And who knows, maybe there's even a little bit of Sheogorad's involvement. It is possible. After all, Calixto was obviously deranged, under the mask of normalcy and slight eccentricity, which is rather creepy. Not once in his letters or dialogues did he sound incoherent, yet his entire life, all of his thoughts and desires, were all focused on something so bizarre and grotesque, if not impossible. I don't even think that he could ever successfully resurrect his sister. He would create a mindless flesh golem, sort of a Frankenstein's monster.
Sorry, I thought I saw a fellow running away, but didn't get a good look at him.
The Imperials think we need their laws. My brother had such a juicy liver.
First time in Markarth, traveler. Take my advice. If you see anything, don't get involved. The city guard will take care of it.
Our final entry for today is Lisbet.
Oh, by the divines, is it that obvious? I swear, if my Gunnar was alive to see me now. This store would finally be on its feet if I hadn't lost my last shipment to the Forsworn attacks. A specially made Dibella statuette.
At first glance, an ordinary Nord woman running a general goods store in Markarth. And truly, besides her husband's tragic death some 5 years ago, there seems to be nothing out of ordinary about Lisbet. But if that's the case, we wouldn't be talking about her right now. There is in fact something very wrong about Lisbet, and her case may even provide an insight into the deeply flawed nature of reality itself. Markarth is, for me, the most unnerving, dangerous place in Skyrim. It lacks that wintry charm of Wilhelm or autumnal rusticity of Riften and its petty thieves guild. Markarth's ruthlessness is oppressive. A city riddled with corruption, terrorism, has its own prison camp, basically a gulag owned by the Silverbloods, one of the most ruthless and wealthiest families in Skyrim. It's also a city ripe with Daedric influence, being a place of special interest for not one, but two Daedric princes. And not just any, but Molag Bal and Namira. There's an aura of evil and darkness surrounding the city of stone carved ages ago by the accursed Dwemer. And perhaps Lisbet simply got affected by it, or corrupted, just like many other citizens of Markarth. Otherwise, how could we rationalize Lisbet's profane act of murdering and eating her husband? Because that's exactly what she did 5 years ago.
I inherited the store from my husband. His father was Arnleif. My husband, Gunnar, died about 5 years ago. Forsworn attack. I miss that stubborn oaf.
In these videos, we often talk about strangest and darkest aspects of the game. So far, we already covered such monstrosities like a necromancer who had a thing going on for undead females, a worshipper of Sanguine who took simple pleasure in burning people alive, sadistic warlock who desired an army of subdued souls, and everything in between. This may come as a surprise to some, but Skyrim and the series in general can be quite dark and mature, even after all the restraint from the developers to fully expose dark aspects of in-game universe. It's kinda weird, Skyrim is already rated M due to all these things, yet there is so much more going on behind the curtains. Again, we talked a little bit about this in the chapter about Naris the Wicked in the previous video, which was related to the Sanguine's Daedric quest. Summary is that the game doesn't show its dark, sinister side in full capacity, except in small, occasional bites, if you will. Every once in a while, we encounter an act or a detail so gruesome and ungodly, reminding us of Tamriel's true reality. And Lisbet's story is attached to one such example. You see, there's a secret coven in Markarth, but not of witches or necromancers, but of cannibals. People as common as Lisbet, who every once a while gather in dark, remote cave to consume human flesh, all in the name of Namira. And I specifically chose Lisbet, even though there are a couple of more characters in the city belonging to the Coven, because her story seemed most disturbing. There is literally nothing in her prior dialogue, demeanor, or even in her shop that would suggest anything even remotely suspicious. She even has a minor quest in which she sends us to retrieve a stolen statue of Dibella. So, seeing her in that cave among other cannibals felt like such a surprise.
One of my customers? Did you know I inherited the store from my late husband? Shame what happened to him. He had such good taste.
But I also want to add that Namira's questline felt too rushed and simplified. We are sent to explore the Hall of the Dead due to the case of desecrated bodies, only to be greeted by mysterious Iola.
Not many would walk blindly into a crypt, smelling of steel and blood, but not fear. I feel the hunger inside of you, gnawing at you. You see the dead, and your mouth grows wet. Your stomach growls.
You were young when you first tasted human flesh, weren't you? A brother or sister had died? An accident, of course. Then the hunger set in. Curiosity. What's the harm in just one bite? It's okay now. You found a friend who understands you. You can let go of your guilt. A lot of our kind block out the memory of their first meal. The shame is too much. But you don't need to hide anymore. Namira, the Lady of Decay, accepts you for what you are. She has a place for us where we can sate our appetites without judgment.
It's a strange dialogue, and my impression is that Iola actually attempts casting some kind of a illusion spell on us, just as she did later with the Priest of Arkay. Our task is then to meet her outside the cave, kill some undead, and prepare for a feast by bringing the Priest of Arkay into a trap.
You've done it. The shrine is ours again. Now we need to prepare a grand feast to welcome you to Namira's coven. Bring Verilus here. The Lady of Decay will do the rest. Priest of Arkay, I'm your friend.
You're my... friend?
Yes, I'm your friend, and I've invited you to dinner.
I've been invited to dinner. I'm so hungry.
Why don't you lay down and rest while we get the meal ready?
I need to lay down. I'll just be a minute.
Come with me. Our feast is about to begin.
Very short storyline, honestly not one of my favorites, even among the Daedric questlines. But there's always this strange feeling of, well, what the hell is going on? First, we are being gaslighted by Iola into believing that we too are a cannibal. We just somehow erase the memory of it. Then we meet a group of cannibals in a cave and are awarded with the Ring of Namira after sacrificing the Priest of Arkay. On one hand, story was obviously meant to be gross and shocking, and it was successful in that regard. But there is also an element of, like I said, oversimplification, turning Namira into this edgy goddess of, well, gore and decay. Just how Skyrim's Sheogorath became this crazy cheese-loving uncle, and Sanguine a drinking buddy. These are all gross oversimplifications of something much more complex and meaningful. It doesn't make them untrue, but still, they simply don't portray full picture. And during the feast, Lisbet can be heard talking not only about her husband, but also her brother and his juicy liver.
I always preferred the liver myself. My brother had such a juicy liver.
Meaning, yeah, she ate both her brother and husband. But again, throughout this entire quest, I kept asking, why? What forces these people into committing such a wild, gruesome act in some distant, smelly cave far from civilization? Are they hypnotized by Iola, charmed by Namira? If so, why them and not someone else? Was it something within Lisbet, a hidden shadow, a trauma, or disease that made her susceptible to Namira's influence? So let's get a little bit abstract for a moment. The world of Elder Scrolls, the way I understand it, is a living world imbued with mystic forces beyond simple mortal comprehension. Nirn itself, or the mortal realm, is comprised of different bodies, or body parts, of spirits otherwise known as gods, floating through this endless void. Namira, known also as an ancient shadow and literally the void, could personify this metaphysical hunger. Hunger of a void attempting to eat the mortal world. To live, to create, or even just sustain existence is a perpetual struggle against the hunger, seen almost as an anomaly itself. Fragments of this metaphysical hunger could then on leak into the mortal world through the influence of Daedric princes, their shrines and worshippers, affecting mortals, corrupting them in a perpetual process of corrupting Nirn itself. And each Daedric lord is a source of certain type of corruption, whether it's nature, human psyche, life itself, and so on. Lisbet is just one corrupted mortal in a line that lasted thousands of years, according to Viola. In other words, it was here since the beginning, since the creation itself is corrupted. And when speaking about eating her brother's juicy liver, or her husband, there is no sign of regret, not a trace of shame. For Lisbet, it's another Tirdas, an ultimate pleasure in life. So in any case, these were my 5 choices of Skyrim's regular NPCs with secret. I hope you guys liked the video. I honestly enjoy making these character-focused videos and look forward to making more. But I also want to cover other aspects like settlements and quests. So thank you all for watching, stay tuned, and I'll see you soon.
The bloodiest beef in the Reach.